characterized by their naivete and molded by a leftist-dominated educational system. The next type of feminist is completely different. They are not innocent or naive, but self-aware predators that exploit the people that they claim to fight for in order to line their own pockets. Similar to how the liberal arts major feminist is a product of a corrupt educational establishment, this second type of feminist is a product of a corrupt journalism media establishment. For your consideration, the second type of feminist, the professional victim. Identifying a professional victim is incredibly easy. They're the ones with the camera pointed at them. They don't necessarily have to be attractive, but it helps if they're at least pleasant looking. The most important thing isn't appearance but charisma. This is why the corrupt journalism media loves them. Have you ever seen a reporter interview a witness at a crime scene or do a man on the street segment? Most people just stare blankly at the camera or start waving and saying things like, "Hi mom, I'm on TV." These segments are painful for both the audience and the media itself. They want competent people in front of the camera, especially when it comes to issues that further their own agenda and narrative. This is where the professional victims come in. Both parties benefit. The media gets a competent quote-unquote expert about a given issue, and the professional victim gets fame, exposure, and most importantly, money. The way to know you're dealing with a grade A professional victim is when they insert themselves into controversies that have absolutely nothing to do with them, and completely hijack the narrative, with the help of the journalism media, of course. Let's think about Gamergate. Now, for those of you who don't know, Gamergate is about games journalists who are supposed to rate and review games for the benefit of the consumer, which has recently been exposed as being in bed, literally in some cases, with developers. A developer makes a shitty game, and these supposed journalists give it a high score, because they were either directly paid, as is the case with major developers, but in the case of indie developers, the journalists may personally know the developer, sometimes in the biblical sense. Now, this corruption was exposed when the ex-boyfriend of one of these indie developers ranted online about the men, including journalists, that his girlfriend was screwing. And when consumers went to the publications that employed these journalists, you'd think they had been fired or something. But instead, these games journalists circled the wagons and declared that gamers were dead, and that gamers were hateful, misogynist bigots, and then it was on. Now, Gamergate is pretty old news at this point, but it's important to understand what it started out as, and what it's always been about. So, I have a question for you. What does Anita Sarkeesian have to do with Gamergate? She's not a developer, she's not a journalist, she's not even a gamer. She admitted on camera she doesn't play video games, and stole the game footage she used in her videos from other people and didn't even credit them or ask permission. However, Google any mainstream articles regarding Gamergate, and it's all about Anita Sarkeesian and her crusade to stop women from being in video games unless they meet her contradictory standards of how she wants women portrayed in video games. Now, Anita Sarkeesian is just one recent example, but there's another one. What does Brianna Wu have to do with Gamergate? Now, unlike Anita, she actually is a developer, but I haven't heard anyone admit to having sex with her in exchange for favorable ratings. What she did was taunt supporters of Gamergate with a meme on her Twitter. And after she threw the first punch and people from Gamergate taunted her back, she claimed she was being harassed, and now she makes 6 figures a year from Patreon because she was harassed after picking a fight. Why am I going on and on about this? The truth is, the best way to explain a professional victim is through examples. Anita Sarkeesian raised over $150,000 on Kickstarter to make YouTube videos. I'm making YouTube videos, and I didn't get shit. She also gets paid $5,000 whenever she speaks at an event. Brianna Wu makes over $150,000 a year from Patreon alone. Being a victim is business, and business is good. Now, Anita Sarkeesian and Brianna Wu are good examples of professional victims, but they pale, pun intended, in comparison to the biggest professional victim in the world, the ODB of SJW, Reverend Al Sharpton. Now, I realize that this video series is about feminism, and Al Sharpton is about racism, not sexism. However, Al Sharpton has been around for decades, and he literally laid the groundwork for contemporary professional victims like Anita and Brianna. He's a living legend, and no analysis of professional victims would be complete without examining the good Reverend. So when you think of Al Sharpton, you probably notice how he's always on the scene whenever there's an incident involving assumed white racism. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner. And that's only in the last couple years. He inserts himself into the controversy and speaks on behalf of others. He makes himself the go-to media personality. He even has his own show on NBC, and this guy's a total dipshit. What?
But resist we much. We must and we will much about that be committed.
Why is this guy so influential? Well, to explain that, we have to look at his organization, the National Action Network. I'm going to read an article from the New York Post from January 5th, 2015. Not the whole thing, just a small portion. It's from about 2 weeks ago. It's called How Sharpton Gets Paid Not to Cry Racism at Corporations. The following is from a section in the article called Cost of Doing Business. Sharpton raised $1 million for National Action Network at his 60th birthday bash in October, with donations rolling in from unions and corporate roster of contributors including AT&T, McDonald's, Verizon, and Walmart. Companies have long gotten in line to pay Sharpton. Macy's and Pfizer has forked over thousands to National Action Network, as have General Motors, American Honda, and Chrysler. National Action Network has repeatedly and without success asked GM for donations for 6 years, beginning in August 2000. A GM spokesperson told the Post. Then in 2006, Sharpton threatened a boycott of GM over a planned closing of an African-American-owned dealership in the Bronx. He picketed outside GM's Fifth Avenue headquarters. GM wrote checks to National Action Network for $5,000 in 2007 and another $5,000 in 2008. Look, it's obvious when you look at the evidence that Al Sharpton doesn't give a shit about black people or black progress. He waxes indignant about black car dealerships being closed down, or things like disparity between blacks being promoted at lower rates than whites, but once you cut him a check, fuck those people. He doesn't care about the people who lost their job or didn't get promoted. He knows these companies are not racist, but he also knows that he has a corrupt media that will support him in calling them racist, and they had better pay up. That is the professional victim. So how do you deal with a professional victim? Well, here's what you don't do. You never threaten them. That's exactly what they want. They deliberately provoke because they need to be victimized to maintain their narrative of oppression. They're basically trolls, but kind of a reverse troll. While a normal troll seeks to offend and incite responses for the lulz, the professional victim seeks to be offended and harassed. If you don't harass them, they'll provoke until someone takes the bait. Many people want to engage with the professional victim because they're the most recognized and famous. They figure that if they can debate these prominent victims and take them down a peg, it will do far more than taking down 1,000 Tumblrettes. And they will be right, except that the professional victim will never agree to an honest debate. The truth is, they know they're peddling bullshit, and the last thing they want to do is have an honest debate and risk being exposed. This is why the other telltale sign of a professional victim is the abundant use of censorship. Comments will be deleted or simply turned off. Opposing voices will be banned. Your IP address will be blocked. You will have your Twitter account suspended. You will be doxxed and fired from your job. There is almost no load the professional victim will not sink to in order to silence debate and criticism. The professional victim's power comes from their influence in the corrupt journalism media, but it is also the source of their weakness. It's important to understand that you never engage the professional victim directly. You attack the media that enables them through their advertisers. Remember, it's all just business, so you have to think in terms of business. Let's say you hate Walmart. What good will you accomplish by storming into your local Walmart with a bullhorn and shouting about how bad Walmart is at the customers? You'll just get arrested and actually hurt your cause by making other people that agree with you look like insane people by association. So what do you do to hurt Walmart? You shop at Target. And you tell all your friends to shop at Target. Pretty soon Walmart is losing money and they change their business. So why bother? Why would you ever want to engage a professional victim? Honestly, you shouldn't. You will very rarely have anything to gain. They will never be interested in a debate because they don't even believe their own bullshit. The truth is, Anita Sarkeesian doesn't give a shit about women any more than Al Sharpton gives a shit about black people. They're just looking to shake down people for money and power, and as long as it furthers their agenda, the corrupt journalist media is only too happy to help. The truth is that feminists like Anita Sarkeesian and Brianna Wu aren't even really feminists at all. They're just using feminism as their angle to make money. But without the media enabling them, they disappear. Remember Sui Park? She was an Asian professional victim that tried to get Stephen Colbert canceled for making an Asian joke. Well, it didn't work, primarily because people don't generally believe Asians are oppressed. Her 15 minutes fizzled out, and that was it. Without the media enabling her, she had to go get a real job. She doesn't even have a Patreon. What a shame. That concludes this video about professional victim feminists. Next time we'll conclude our journey and learn about the fabled misandric land whales.